Hey, my name is Kristen Eason. I am a 26-year-old broadcast journalism major from Pleasantville, New Jersey, and this is take 3. When we started talking about doing this project, it literally took me 2.5 seconds to decide exactly what I wanted to do. Being as though I'm a broadcast journalism major, I kind of try to stay in that area of talent because that's what I know. So I decided I'm starting a web series. This is actually going to be the first video. I had started a web series before. Well, I started thinking about a web series before, but this project kind of like pushed me further. So this is the first video, and actually, what I'm going to do is give you some background as far as how I got back to Hampton University. So I guess I'll give you background of my life altogether. I grew up in a pretty much middle class family. My father is a truck driver, and he has been since he was 17 years old, and he is now 56, so it's a long time. So he's pretty much made a decent living while I was growing up. I am the fourth child. Um, my mother has 4 children. I'm her youngest. My father has 6. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. My younger brother's 18. My younger sister is 9. So I'm my mom's youngest. Um, but like I said, we grew up in a middle class family, pretty much the same ups and downs as any other family. Um, the average. But we live pretty comfortably for the most part. My mom, because my dad made an okay living, it allowed her to be like really hands on as far as raising her children went. A lot of times she was able to stay at home with us and be there. Um, my mom is a minister, so um, like not only did she like was she really adamant about her faith in God, but she always pushed on me that God showed her the different gifts and the visions that He gave me and things like that. Um, like I said, she's a minister, so she always pushed for me to put my best foot forward as well. So growing up, from kindergarten to 6th grade, I was in private school, and it was a faith-based school, and the curriculum was a little bit above public school. So I pretty much performed at a level higher than kids my age. So when I left when I left private school, I was pretty much getting my mom to put me in public school. I really think it was because I didn't like the uniform, but I think I also thought that I was missing out on something being in private school. And it was a very small school, it was very family oriented, everybody knew everybody. Um, so when I got to public school, I guess I kind of got lazy and my grades started to slip. And I think it was pretty much because everybody was performing at a level that was lower than me, or they were learning things that I had already learned, so I kind of got lazy. But my mom kept pushing me, and I know that she knew that she wanted more for me. Like, she wanted me to seek higher education because her and my father, neither one of them went to college. So she kept pushing me, and then when I got into high school, again, my grades were mediocre, and I did exactly what I needed to do just to get by, and pretty much just to um, stay academically eligible to play sports because I was very active as far as sports and different societies, different clubs, and things like that. So I knew that I wasn't working to my potential all the time. But when I decided that I wanted to go to college, I started to look into schools, and we had gone on different tours with um, like the different societies that I was a part of. And this was like kind of when my dad like kind of took an interest in my education. This was like the first time. So I was looking at all of these different schools, and I applied to all these schools that I wanted to apply to, and I only didn't get into one, and that was actually my first choice, and I won't say the name, Howard. So anywho, I didn't get into the one that I wanted to get into, but I had a friend who I had gone through high school with. He's a really good friend, and he kept saying, you should come down to Hampton. You should come to Hampton. That's where I'm going. Jersey Power and all that stuff. So I was like, yeah, Jared, I don't know. I don't know if Hampton's for me. Um, but my dad said, let's go look at the school and see what you think. So we came down, and I just fell in love with the campus, the water, and I went home and I was telling everybody about it. So I decided Hampton was where I want to go. Well, the money wasn't there at all. Um, and financial aid, they looked at my father's income and they pretty much were like, yeah, right. Uh, financial aid, no. So they gave me a loan for $2,000. That did nothing. Nothing at all. That hardly paid for my meal plan. So I enrolled and they put my parents on a payment plan. And my first year, they pretty much paid for everything out of pocket. They had just divorced and sold our house. So when they split the check, they pretty much went back and forth and made payments towards my tuition for my first year. And then after my first year, they were kind of like, oof, don't know what to tell you, kid. We don't have it. And they still wouldn't give me financial aid because of they were looking at how much my dad had coming in. Um, so after my first year, I moved back to Hampton, the city, and I had two roommates who were my friends from school the first year, and I pretty much stayed there for about 3 months. And I figured like it would motivate me to figure out a way to get back into school or to find the finances to go to school, and it didn't work. I sat there, I couldn't find a job, and I, you know what I mean. I couldn't really keep asking my parents to pay for this house when they didn't have the money as much anymore, and I wasn't working, so I hightailed it home. And when I hightailed it home, um, I that was the beginning of 7 years. 7 years of life. Um, 7 is the number of completion, and that's exactly how long it took for me to get back to Hampton University. I went through ups and downs, financial hardships, just life. Um, I've been a server with a company for going on 6.5 years, and it was just, I was just living and living way below my potential. So, last year for homecoming, I came down with some girlfriends, and it was my first time down in a couple years, and the word alumni just kept plaguing my whole weekend. Like I just kept hearing it, and it was bothering me. And it was bothering me because I felt like I should have been an alumni. Last year, I should have been an alumni. I was supposed to graduate in 2009. Um, like, Obama was the keynote speaker at the 2009 commencement, and I should have been there. And so every time I heard somebody say alumni, it just bothered me. So that was kind of when I decided that it was time for me to come back. It was time for me to take control of my situation and make it happen. I remember freshman year, freshman week, they sit you in a classroom and they say, look to your left, look to your right, and somebody's not going to be here in 2009 when you graduate. And I never dreamed, it never dawned on me that that would be me. So every time I heard somebody say alumni, I felt like I didn't give myself a chance to walk across Ogden Circle in 2009. Not just that Obama was the keynote speaker, but to be a Hampton University alumni with Ogre 5, Ogre 13, the class that I was supposed to walk with. So that's when I decided that it was time for me to make a change. Um, and I had to be a Hampton University alumni. So I started taking the necessary steps, and I didn't really tell anyone, not because, like, I don't believe in superstition and jinxing it or anything like that, but I just come to find that not everybody is going to um, basically have your best interests at heart, or not everybody is going to be in your corner, or they're going to secretly be jealous. They'll say nice things, but they won't always be there for you. So I didn't say much to anybody. And like I said, like over the past 7 years, I thought about the military, different business ventures. I started to go into management with the company that I work for, and all because I was just running. I was running from what I really wanted deep down in my heart, and that was to be a Hampton University alumni. And the reason why I was running from it was because I knew that it would be the hardest thing that I would ever have to do. Not just because um, the grades or being a student, or I didn't think that I could make it, but because I had to work hard to pay for it and be able to support myself, and I would really just have to buckle down and make it happen. So another reason why I didn't tell many people is because I didn't want it to be another thing that I didn't complete. So I said, I'm going to do this thing. I'm just going to make it happen. So I didn't find out until about 3 months before school that I had gotten readmitted. And then once I found out, well, my mom found out before I did because she saw the letter and I told her to open it. Um, so I told my pastor and his wife, and they were ecstatic. And they're my spiritual mother and father, so they knew, like they were one of those people that knew that I was living below my means or below my potential in life. So they were ecstatic. Um, so I started calling my financial aid advisor, who I called her every day for 2 weeks, and I left her a message, and I emailed her, and I still have not talked to this woman. And um, I finally got in touch with her supervisor because that was the only way that I could get any answers. And when I finally talked to somebody, they told me what I was being awarded for financial aid, which was a grant and a loan, and it ended up being a small portion of my tuition. And then they gave me like an estimated family contribution, which was like $1,100, and I'm like, okay, so where did y'all think the rest of this was coming from? Oh, okay. So, like I said, at that point, even though the financial aid wasn't a lot, I was just like, I have to be a Hampton University alumni. So here we are. This is the first semester of my sophomore year at Hampton University. So when I finally talked to somebody, they told me that they could put me on a payment plan, and in order to start, I would have to come up with a $4,000 down payment. So now we're at 3 weeks before school, because that's how long it took for me to get in contact with someone. That's called the Hampton Runaround. You call somebody, and then they say, oh, you got to talk to this person, and you talk to that person, and they say, oh, you got to call that person. So anywho, I prayed, and I'm like, God, I know this is your will. I know that this is what you want for my life. So you, like, give me a way. I know I just need you to give me a way. Give me a witty invention. I don't want a handout. I don't want anybody to be able to say, oh, I helped you get here, or oh, I did this. That's how you got to where you are. And not that I'm not discrediting anybody who did help me get to where I am, because I know that those people who did help me were people who genuinely wanted to see me succeed. So I said, God, give me a witty invention. And he did. He said candy. I said, candy? Really? Candy? That's what you got for me? He said, candy. So, my mom, being Susie Homemaker, because that's what she is, she, when we would have different events, birthday parties, wedding receptions, she's she's an event planner. So, um, she would make these candies for like receptions and things like that, and they're chocolate, so it makes it kind of hard with the summertime. But she would make these candies. So I said, Mom, what we're going to do is we're going to make candy. And she's like, okay, and then what? And I'm like, I'm going to sell it. Duh. I'm going to make $4,000 in 2 weeks. So um, we made the candy, and I'll tell you that my kitchen looked like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for about 2 weeks. And my sister made up these labels so that it let people know exactly what they were investing in. It wasn't just candy, they were helping invest in my future. So I was talking to my coworkers about it before I actually made the candy, and everybody was so excited. And I would stop and talk to coworkers, and they would like have me breaking down crying because they were like, we really believe in you, and we know that you're worth more than where you're at right now. So we got to get you to where you're going. Um, because let's face it, I wasn't put on this earth to be a server for the rest of my life. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I just know that that's not what I'm here for. So, people just helped all over the place. And it came down to the week that I had to be here. And I had to be here on Thursday. Thursday was my day. I had to be here by 3 p.m. And like I said, my pastor and his wife, they helped out tremendously financially. They did what they could, and I really appreciated it because it just did something to me to see how much support I had around me from it. Like people were coming out of the woodwork, people who I didn't think cared, people who just like they reached down deep and brought something extra, and it really did something for me, and I will forever be grateful for those people. So the week I had to be down here, on Thursday at 3 p.m. and um I called my sister, who's 10 years older than me, the night before, and I said, hey, don't you want to take a trip down to Virginia? You know, a little 6 hour trip. No biggie. And she had to work, and she actually called out, and my niece came with us, and I packed up my car and we headed down. Like I said, I had to be here at 3, and we left a little late in the morning, so I didn't get here till 4 o'clock. So we get here to the convocation center, and the doors are locked. Really? So the doors are locked, and I'm like, I didn't plan on having to get a hotel room or having to come back the next day. Like I didn't make these plans, and I couldn't ask my sister to take off another day of work or anything like that. Like I literally came down here on a wing and a prayer. So somebody was coming out, so we just slipped in. And when we got inside, we got to the first table, and woman was like, well, I think they're done in there, but you can kind of go in and see, you know, if you can talk to somebody. Because there were still students who were finishing up and whatnot. So we go in, and the second table we get to, I just walked up to a table, didn't even look at what the table said. I just said to the woman, are they done? And she goes, we're done for the day, but you can come back at 9 a.m. Needless to say, I didn't like her attitude. And then come to find out, that's Mrs. Reed, my financial aid advisor. So yeah, we can see how she feels about her job. Very lackluster. So, like I said, I didn't like her attitude. So my sister walks over and she turns on her charm, and she goes up to a guy and she says, excuse me, sir, is there any way that somebody can just look at her financial aid situation really quick just so we know what we're working with? And he pointed us towards Mr. Nixon. So we go over to Mr. Nixon, and obviously Mr. Nixon is actually he's the supervisor. So we go over to Mr. Nixon, and I pretty much was like, okay, so what do I need to start? And he says, Miss Eason, this is what I can do for you. And he showed me he gave me a figure, basically. And I said, okay. And I was already, I went down there knowing that I was short. But like I said, I was going down on a wing and a prayer. And I said, God, you have to, take over. So he gave me a figure, and he said, and now I have to tell you that if you don't come up with that by tomorrow, there's going to be an extra $500 fee for late registration. Okay. So I got butterflies in my stomach, and I started to have this feeling. My sister, being the negotiator and the cool head that she is, she says, well, what about this and what about that? He's like, that's what I can do for you. So we stop and get something to eat, and we turn around and go home. And the whole time I'm just thinking, and she's like, so what are you thinking? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I had an answer at this point. So we get home, and people are like, oh, so what happened? And I'm like, I'm still short. So that was Thursday. Got back home Thursday night. I had until Wednesday, because Wednesday was the last day of late registration. So people were just coming out of the woodworks again. Family members, people sowed seeds and everything. And that what I came to realize was there were a lot of doubters. There were people who would say, okay, so what about next semester? Or why can't you just go to community college? And every time they came with that, my response was no. And I just got this look on my face. No. That's not how this story goes. That's not how this ends. I know what's supposed to happen. And as of right now, I don't know how I'm getting there. But I know that that's not how this story ends. So I kept pushing. And I kept praying. And it was kind of like, God, I know what you said. So you kind of got to show up. Otherwise, I'll have to tell people that you went back on your word. I don't think you want that. So, Wednesday was the day that I had to be down there. So, like I said, family members showed up and everything like that. I had to be down there Wednesday at 10 a.m. 9:05 a.m. is when the last $200 that I needed was deposited into my account. And as I got to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, I broke down, and I'm driving, and I just felt so overwhelmed, and it was so surreal, and I was like, God, it's finally here. Everything that I've worked for, everything that I've been through in the past 7 years, and it's finally here. I asked for something, and you showed up, and there's no way that I can look at this and say that I did this all on my own. I know that this was a miracle. It was a miracle because I had to get from here to here, and he just bridged the gap. He said, let me do that. Let me be that bridge. And I'm wiping my eyes as I'm getting over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. And when I got there, I handed Mr. Nixon the papers. The cash, and he gave me my paperwork and told me to go see the dean of Miss Harrison, the dean of women, who was actually one of the only people that I ever got to talk to the entire time I was calling down here, trying to figure out what was going on. So, I go talk to Miss Harris, and I said to her, Miss Harris, you wouldn't happen to need an RA, because I was thinking, I'm older and I got a little experience in life, and I may I'm a leader. And one thing my mother has always pushed is not just, like I said, not just my faith in God, but to embrace being different and to embrace being a leader and standing out. So I said, I can be an RA. So I said to Miss Harris, I said, do you need an RA? And she said, well, it just so happens there's a position for an RA in Davidson Hall, and that's the hall that you're going to be in. So I said, okay. So I get here, and they give me my room key, and I said to Miss Charity, the woman at the front, and I said, Miss Charity, do I have a roommate? And she says, yes, you do. So I come upstairs, and I start unpacking, get everything upstairs, and I go to take out one book to put it on the shelf, and Miss Charity calls and says, Kristen, don't touch nothing. We're moving you down to the RA room. And I just look up, and I'm like, God, you are so funny, because I said I do not want a roommate, because I'm 26 years old, and it would have been a whole other adjustment for me to have a roommate, and them being 18, 19, and me being 26. It just would have been a weird situation. So I just didn't want a roommate. So I'm an RA, and I don't have a roommate. And that's my story of how I got back to Hampton University. And people ask me, like, what do you want to do as far as your career goes, and this, that, and the third. And my main thing is, wherever I am in life, the main thing that I try to hold on to, the words that I live by, are aspire to inspire. Because I just always want to be touching lives. And I didn't even realize that this story was for someone. It did something to me. It choked me up a little bit, but I didn't realize that it can help someone else. And what it did for me was it took me further in my faith in God, because it was like, it was so relevant. It was so right in front of my face what he did. And I just know that if I tell people, somebody might be on the verge of giving up, or somebody might be having an issue with what their next step in life is, because I'm 26 and I'm a sophomore, and sometimes I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so old, I'm so behind the eight ball, but I'm doing it. So that's what this is. It's just, I just want somebody to look at this story and dream a little bit harder, and dream a little bit bigger, and have a little more faith, and just push themselves a little bit harder. Push yourself a little bit further. And the two Bible verses that were ringing out the entire time that I was going through the situation was one where he says, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you. Plans to give you hope and a future. And I knew that he had a plan for me. And that's what I rested in. He has a plan for me. He has a plan for you. And also, another one, the word says, your gift will make room for you. So whatever gift he's given you, it will make a way for you in life. And that's how I got here. He gave me a gift, and it made a way for me. So at this moment, I don't know where my tuition is coming from, but I know that God has me here for a reason. And that's what I'm resting on. So I say that to say, dream a little bit bigger, push yourself, don't give up, and rest in God's will. And I am signing off.